Good evening to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Let us start the session with the question, what is this editorial about? But before I answer that question, I would like to thank all the subscribers. Today we have touched, I think, almost a week, 25,000 subscribers. I would like to thank all the subscribers. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to start the session with the question, what is this editorial about? This editorial is about the government's initiative, a particular initiative by the government, taken by the government, as mentioned in Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's interim budget speech, to promote the use of rooftop solar panels for supplying what is objective behind for supplying power to 1 crore households in India. It's all about that. Here you have to focus on rooftop solar panels, that is one thing, and the intention behind for supplying power to 1 crore households in India, the other dimension. Thank you very much. What is the tone of the editorial? The tone of the editorial is generally positive and supportive of the center's initiative to promote rooftop solar panels. The tone is completely positive and appreciative. A sunshine initiative. I've seen that Ashish Sharma. I'll get back to you later. Please focus on the analysis. A sunshine initiative. There's one important word here: sunshine. Sunshine initiative. Which part of speech is it? Noun. Sunshine. In this context, it is an adjective. But generally, sunshine is a noun, and it can also be based on this the context adjective. What does it mean? As a noun, we all say we have been getting a lot of sunshine. We get a lot of sunshine during the summer. It's quite obvious, noun. But sunshine initiative, because it talks about solar panel, rooftop solar panels, to make it contextually relevant, the writer has used sunshine initiative. What is the second meaning of the word sunshine as an adjective? Happiness or pleasure, a positive initiative, an initiative that brings in pleasure. I hope you guys got the meaning of the word sunshine based on the context. But what is the main idea of this editorial? Center's solar initiative should be accommodative to states. There's one important helping verb or model, should. Already we have got many a time. If you remember, you can respond. That will consolidate your knowledge. Should has two functions. What are the two functions of should? One, it is used to advise or suggest someone. You should do this, you should do that. Advise or suggest someone. What is the second function of should? It is used to express a possibility. But possibility chances are more or less. Less chances. It should be true. He should be on the way. It shouldn't be a problem. All these examples refer to the second function, possibility, but the chances are less. In this context, you have to recollect other helping verbs which talk about possibility. Total, we have four. May, more chances. And after that, you have to recollect three. The next one is might, then could, and here should. The last three refer to possibility, but the chances are more or less chances. Here he talks about center solar initiative should be, means advise, accommodative to states, means the state should feel they are part of the program and it should be inclusive. That's what it means. Let us see how it starts. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's interim budget. There's one important word here, interim. What does it mean? Part of speech adjective, budget, noun. Here it refers to the noun, budget. Temporary, temporary, and intended to be used or accepted until something permanent exists. You can also think of the expression for the time being, temporary, till the actual thing is comes actual thing comes into existence. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's interim budget day speech reiterated. We have got this word many a time. Reiterate means what? To say something again once or several times. I would like to reiterate something. Means what? I would like to say that many a time. Reiterated a plan by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to supply power to 1 crore households in the country using rooftop solar panels. There are two things over here. One is the initiative, government initiative, and what is this initiative about? It is about the installation of rooftop solar panels, and what is the objective behind to supply power to 1 crore households. This is the main thing. This would help households save 15,000 annually, the minister claimed, the finance minister. This particular initiative, this would help households save 15,000. You may wonder how does it save 15,000? Not mentioned in the editorial. But if you do your homework, you'll come to know if at all some solar panels have to be installed in a particular household, they have to take the permission, one thing, and they have to pay the rental, and the government has decided to pay 15,000 towards the rentals to the households. That way the households can save 15,000 annually, the minister claimed. What is known so far, there's an important expression, what is known so far, but you have to focus on two words. What are the two words? So far means from the past to the present. Whenever you talk about a situation that refers to an action that begins in the past and extends to the present, which tense are you supposed to use? You're supposed to use present perfect. Present perfect. Present perfect tense. What is known so far is that households that have a monthly electricity consumption of less than 300 units a month will be able to install a mid-sized system with the government bearing the expense. What is known so far. But actually, here, generally, we say something. Do remember English, we have rules, we have exceptions. What is known so far? Which tense is this? Please answer. We know something, something is known. Here it is in present tense passive voice. But generally speaking, so far means from the past to the present, we have to use present perfect tense. Households that have a monthly electricity consumption of less than 300 units a month will be able to install a mid-sized system, 1 to 2 kilowatt, with the government bearing the expense. Any scheme related to, imagine you're dealing with a particular scheme initiated by the center or by the state, you have to have the broad framework. You have to use questions like what is this scheme? And which field is it related to? Here it is related to what? Renewable sources of energy or non-conventional sources of energy. And the most important one, renewable sources of energy, solar energy. Then you have to ask questions like who is eligible and what is the eligibility criterion or criteria. And because it's an initiative from the center, you have to ask questions like what is the role to be played by the states, and to what extent, how much do they get benefited, to what extent, how much, or to what extent do they get benefited. These are some of the pertinent questions you have to ask when you think of, when you read the first two sentences, you know it is about a particular initiative. In a way, it is about a scheme. Then, generally, a scheme, what are the aspects or dimensions touched? You have to, editorial goes or takes you in the same direction. This sentence talks about who is eligible. What is known so far is that households that have a monthly electricity consumption of less than 300 units a month will be able to install a mid-sized system, 1 to 2 kilowatt, with the government bearing the expense. So this sentence talks about the eligibility criterion, and there's one important word here, bearing. Bear can be a noun, bear can be a bear noun. As a noun, it's an animal. I know we have got many a time. Oh, already some students have written. Wonderful. As a noun, brown bear, grizzly bear, teddy bear, polar bear, all these. But bear as a verb, it has many meanings. Two meanings in this context very important, and both the meanings, the past form is the same, bear, bore. But past participle changes, born, and what is the other one? Borne, born. To become good at English, I will respond to that. Please wait for some time. Born means what? To give birth, and borne to carry something. If someone says you have to bear the expenses, what does it mean? You have to spend money. I don't have to bear the expenses, means I don't have to spend money. In this context, it says whatever expenses to install the solar panels, rooftop solar panels, the household does not have to incur the expenses or does not have to bear the expenses. It is the government that is going to bear the expenses. This could mean a minimum outlay of 1 lakh crore. How much the center has to spend based on this scheme? Very good. I appreciate those who have written the two different meanings and the two different forms. Wonderful. This could mean, again, could. It has four functions. One is polite request. Could you please repeat, sir? Could you tell the time, please? Could you show the way, please? A very polite request, formal and polite. Second function, past habits. I could do something when I was young. That means now I cannot do. Past ability, not habit, past ability. Past ability. I could do something when I was young. Ah, that's right. And what is the third one? Idea of condition. Idea of condition. We say you could sit here if you like. What is the idea of condition? If you like. And the fourth one is important in this context, possibility. I have already written less chances. What are the four functions of could? Polite request, polite and formal request. And second one, past ability. Third one, idea of condition. Fourth one, possibility, less chances. This could mean a minimum outlay of 1 lakh crore, how much they are going to spend. As of today, an important expression, rooftop solar systems are subsidized up to 40%, with the remainder having to be borne by the consumer. Look at this, very important. Having to be born. What is the spelling of born here? borne. Generally, what happens? Why should you read the Hindu editorial every day? Or why should you listen to me every day? There's so many benefits. It is like multifaceted. One, you can improve your contextual awareness. Second, you can improve your vocabulary, obviously, enrich your word power. Third, you can consolidate your grammar. The most important thing, no, the most important, because today many questions are based on contextual awareness. And what is the last one? You can improve your contextual awareness. I will tell you what happens if you read the newspaper. Imagine you read the newspaper regularly. Usually they take the same context. They may take this sentence and give you in the exam. As of today, rooftop solar systems are subsidized up to 40%, with the remainder having to be borne. Here they may use BORN, by the consumer. If you don't know the subtle difference between BORN and BORNE, then you cannot spot the error. But when you read a sentence like this, there are two benefits. One, it's a familiar context already have read. And second one, because the context is familiar, you don't try to understand the context. You know the context. You'll try to focus on the language aspect and you will be able to spot the error. That is the reason why I tell read the Hindu paper regularly. You get questions from the same context, nothing more, nothing less. Under the proposed policy, the subsidy will increase to 60%. In the past, 40%, context is the king. Very good, Varaprasad. Under the proposed policy, the subsidy will increase to 60%, and the rest will be financed by a private developer who is affiliated to a public sector enterprise connected to the power ministry. There are three things over here: private developer, public sector enterprise, and that is connected to the power ministry. But here it talks about the subsidy percentage. In the past, 40%, and here 42 increased to 60%. One more thing, when you read editorials based on facts and figures, I bring the questions regularly to test your contextual awareness, and many questions, because this is based on data, based on facts and figures. When we go to questions, you understand a few questions are based on facts and figures. You answer based on facts and figures, you get used to that. Next time when you read a passage in the exam and it deals with facts and figures, while reading itself, you'll focus on the facts and figures. Then when you go to the question, like someone has written, I appreciate that student, I think Nagendrama, she has written increased from 40 to 60%. There will be a question based on that. Do remember, there will be a question or a few questions based on the facts and figures. While reading itself, you focus, then it becomes easy for you. Under the proposed policy, the subsidy will increase to 60%, and the rest will be financed by a private developer who is affiliated. Affiliated usually, Suresh, very good, I appreciate that. Affiliation, noun form, affiliate, verb. Affiliated, adjective. To be officially connected with or controlled by another, usually larger entity. Imagine there is a college that is affiliated to the university, then the college has to follow the framework, rules, and regulations related to based on that particular university. I'm sure you all know the word affiliate, affiliated. And this private developer who is affiliated to a public sector enterprise connected to the power ministry. These the players, the different entities going to play a role. This will ostensibly, an important word. Generally, what happens when you read the editorial, invariably you come across 10 to 15 new words every editorial. Slowly, the number may go down after 6 months or 1 year, but usually 10 to 15 new words. Of these new words, some you can grasp immediately without any problem. But some words they don't enter, they don't you cannot catch immediately, ostensibly, or they may confuse some other word in your mind ostensibly. Then what you have to do, you have to spend some time and you have to make your own examples. Only then you can remember. This word has been given in many competitive exams. Ostensibly, obviously, it is an adverb, but what is the meaning? Stated or appearing to be true but not necessarily so. Something happens or looks to be true, seems to be true, but not necessarily so. An important word you have to remember and make your own examples. Ostensible, adjective, ostensibly, adverb. This will ostensibly ensure quality in installation and also reliable service. In a way, it is not a good statement. It talks about the role of the private sector. Based on that, this will ostensibly, apparently, obviously, exactly, apparently ensure, it looks like, ensure quality in installation and also reliable service. Whenever we talk about the services or if we talk about a product, we touch a few dimensions like the quality, one thing, here quality in installation of the solar panels. Second, reliable service. The service has to be reliable, rely on, bank on, depend on. Those you have to recollect. There is a mechanism of non-metering wherein surplus electricity. What is the meaning of the word surplus? Excess. Where, wherein, an important word you have to remember, wherein surplus electricity produced by households can be sold back. We can sell back something, something can be sold back. Is it an active voice or passive voice? Here it isn't passive voice. We can sell something, something can be sold back to the grid to make good the loan, though the actual way in which this is implemented can be quite complex. Now, there are two possibilities here. It talks about the different dimensions, and this sentence talks about in case the households generate more power or surplus electricity, what is going to happen? There's a mechanism. What is that mechanism? There is a mechanism of net metering wherein surplus electricity produced by households can be sold back to the grid. They can sell that to the grid, can be sold back to the grid to make good the loan, though the actual way in which this is implemented can be quite complex. It is not going to be easy, it is going to be quite complex. And one more thing I would like to tell, a lot of students, they go with certain patterns, can be, and the moment they see can be, they think it is in passive voice, need not be. Here, can be sold back. You need a verb, sell, sold, sold. Here it is in passive voice. But can be something, can be interesting, can be simple, can be complex. Based on that, what is the pattern here? It is an active voice and it takes an adjective, a noun, adjective or noun. Can be interesting, interesting movie. Interesting is what? Adjective. Can be a student, he can be a student. Here, student noun. So don't jump into conclusion. Look at the context, look at the pattern, then you decide whether it is an active voice or passive voice. Here it is an active voice, but here it is in passive voice. Same, looks like same pattern, but there's a subtle difference. Here we have the verb in past participle form. Here we have a complex, quite complex. Complex can be a noun, can be an adjective. A monthly consumption of 300 units is paltry in houses where air conditioners and heaters are a given, but by national standards is a significant metric of consumption. What is the criterion to be eligible for this particular scheme? A monthly consumption of 300 units, less than 300 units. But this sentence talks about when it comes to certain categories. Imagine the households use air conditioners, heaters, consumption will be more. It talks about that. A monthly consumption of 300 units is paltry. Paltry, part of speech, adjective. It goes with an amount very small or meager. Very small or meager. In this context, the consumption. 300 units is paltry. In houses where air conditioners and heaters are a given, but by national standards, is a significant metric of consumption. About 80% to 85% of 25 crore to 30 crore households in India use between 100 units and 120 units of power a month on average. This sentence talks about across the country what is the average consumption, how many units. The sentence says about 25 crore to 30 crore households in India use between 100 units and 120 units of power a month on average. Based on that, the next sentence says, therefore, finding 1 crore houses that will be eligible for the plan will not be a difficult task because it should be below 300 units and 25 crore to 30 crore average consumption 100 to 120 units. Based on that, it is not going to be a problem to find households, eligible households. They can easily get households based on the average consumption. Now the sentence talks about the previous schemes and the proposed scheme. What are the differences? The major difference from earlier solar promotion policies, schemes or policies, is that it is a center as opposed, an important expression, as opposed to the state power distribution companies, discoms, that will be pushing for solarization. Previous solar promotion policies, if you look at those, the states played a crucial role. But the proposed one, it is not the states, it is the center, as opposed to the state power distribution companies, discoms, that will be pushing for solarization, not the state, the center. Very good. Anusha has written a few words related to antagonistic, hostile, all these. Very good. I appreciate. India's discoms, most of which are heavily loss making, have had little incentive so far in moving high consumption customers to decentralized solutions such as rooftop solar. This is an important sentence. Again, I would like to say when you read the editorial, please listen very carefully. The purpose, the objective behind doing this every day, when you come across certain sentences, there is a possibility, same sentence or a sentence with similar pattern, you may get in the exam. Already you have focused on the pattern, then in the exam, it becomes very easy for you to spot the error or find out the whatever the question demands. Why is this important? India's discoms, this is a subject, a noun phrase, most of which are heavily loss making, most of which are heavily loss making. This is a clause related to the subject. But always, when you read a sentence, you should have the ability to identify the phrases and clauses. And once you identify the phrase or clause that goes with the subject, put it in brackets. Now try to check the subject and the verb. India's discoms have had little incentive. First, I'll talk about have had. Here you have to recollect a few patterns, important patterns. Imagine I say, I have my breakfast at some time every day. Which tense is this? Please respond. Present tense. Because of the time factor, I'm not writing the complete sentence. I have my breakfast at 7:30 every morning. Present tense. I had my breakfast. I had my breakfast at 7:30 yesterday. Which tense is that? Past tense. Imagine I say, I have had my breakfast. I have had my breakfast. Or I have already had my breakfast. I have had, which tense is this? Present perfect. Now try to change it to past perfect. I have had my breakfast, present perfect. What is a past perfect? I had my breakfast before I came here. And many students think I had, something is wrong. But nothing wrong with this. Which tense is this? Past perfect. When do we use past perfect? It is an important tense. They have quite often they ask questions. Imagine you are talking about two actions that happened in the past, one after the other. For the first action, you have to use past perfect. For the second action, you have to use past tense. And here, first I had my breakfast, then I came here. First action, past perfect. I had my breakfast before I came here. And you have to remember four conjunctions: before, or expressions: by the time, when. When you use these three, past perfect should be used before these words. Who is this? And if you use a fourth one, very important, after, then you have to use past perfect after the word after. I had my breakfast before I came here. I came here after I had my breakfast. No need to get confused. Remember the arrow marks. Before, past perfect tense, before. All these one group. And if you use after, past perfect, after the word after. That way, if you remember, easy, no need to get confused. Given that such discoms have the best granular information, we have got this word for the first time. Given that such discoms have the best granular information, quite often I use one word. I use the word meticulous. When you read the sentences, you have to read meticulously. Meticulous means what? Looking at the minutest details. Here, granular information. Information, noun. Granular talks about information, which is an abstract noun. Obviously, granular is what? Adjective. What is the meaning of that word? Highly detailed, having many small and distinct parts. An important word. But here you have to recollect the word granules. Granules, noun. Meticulous reading. Yes, Suresh, you're right. An important combination you have to remember. What does it talk about? Something is missing here. Some part is missing. I'm sorry about that. But I will tell the meanings of these words hitherto, an important expression. I think we have got for the first time. Part of speech adverb, until now, or until the point in time under discussion. Again, when you come across until, till, until, what is the difference? Please respond. Till, until both mean the same. Old English, initially we had until, later it got changed to till. Both mean the same. You got to be careful with the spelling, double L, single L. Till, until. But these are negative words you have to remember. That is an important thing you have to keep in mind. Negative words. Why is it important? And along with a lot of students ask me, sir, what is the difference between unless, until, till? They belong to one group. Unless is a negative word. Unless is also a negative word. And these are negative words. And there's one important rule. What is that rule? When you use a negative word in a sentence, in the same clause, you cannot use two negative expressions. That is known as double negative, not acceptable. For example, unless you don't sign the documents. Answer my question, is this right or wrong? Unless you don't sign, it is wrong. Unless you don't sign the document, we won't give something. Why is it wrong? Here we have a clause, unless you don't sign. Unless is a negative word, do not, a negative word, double negatives are not acceptable. So, what is the correct sentence? Unless you sign. That you have to remember, important. And another word we have got for the first time, but we all know the word lag behind. Someone is lagging behind, something is lagging behind. Laggard, a different word form, part of speech, adjective, because here program is noun. Laggard program. Laggard is what? Adjective. A person who makes slow progress and falls behind others. But in this context, not a person, a program that is lagging behind. He is welcome. The scheme, it talks about the scheme. After all, the move towards a decarbonized power will be half hearted if it does not involve households. Here, this is an important editorial because today we talk about climate change, we talk about environment, we talk about pollution, we talk about all the problems that go with the environment. And one of the problems, conventional sources of energy or traditional sources of energy, and they're also known as non-renewable sources of energy. What are they? Fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are not good for the environment. And what is the solution? The solution, renewable sources of energy, non-conventional sources of energy. And there we have solar energy, hydro, and wind energy. All these are very important. And this scheme is related to solar energy. You may get something like this in the exam related to when it comes to a passage or cloze test. That way, it is very important. This sentence reiterates that idea. After all, the move towards decarbonized power using renewable sources of energy will be half hearted if it does not involve households. Anything, don't ask questions out of the context. Who is this Bhiru? Don't ask questions out of the context. Listen to the analysis. Out of the context, I will not answer. Doubts or questions, I will not touch. The reason being, whatever time we have, we go with the editorial. Anything related to the editorial you ask, I will answer, but don't ask out of context, out of the framework. Half hearted, not wholehearted, if it does not involve households. Households are not involved, obviously, it is not all inclusive project. If they are also involved, the households involved, oh, wholehearted, holistic, then we say it is a holistic approach. What is the word? Holistic, all inclusive. So far, only 12 gigawatt GW out of an intended 40 gigawatt of rooftop solar panels has been installed. Again, whenever you come across so far, look for, though exceptions are there, I appreciate your response. Though exceptions are there, so far usually goes with present perfect. So far, only 12 gigawatt out of an intended 40 gigawatt of rooftop solar panels has been installed. Has been installed. Answer my question, which tense is it? Is it present perfect? If you say yes, present perfect, very good, Nagendrama. She has already answered. It is a present perfect tense, passive voice. What is it? Passive voice. I always tell students there are two topics which are very important, especially I don't know how many of you are preparing for banks and SSC, both banks and SSC. Two topics are very important. One is voice, active voice and passive voice, and The other one is speech. These two topics are very important. And what I tell students while reading a piece of text or while reading the editorial, if you come across a sentence that is in passive voice, think of the same idea in active voice. Imagine they have installed something. They have installed something. Change it to passive voice. Something has been installed by them, has been installed. Something has been installed passive voice. And imagine some subject, they have installed something. You should know both. Same thing goes with speech, direct speech and indirect speech. Has been installed. Here too, household rooftops account for has many meanings and uh, give the explanation. Account for the expenses means you have to tell how you spend the money. Account for, answerable for, one more meaning. Only 2.7 gigawatt, with the rest being commercial or building units. It's nothing. 2.7 is very small. With the rest, major share goes with commercial or building units. Then you have to be very good at active voice, passive voice, direct speech, and indirect speech. Now, the editorial says what is the benefit of this particular scheme? The center's move can thus galvanize. Galvanize has many meanings. One meaning, generally everyday English, if you take bikes or anything that is made of steel or iron, you give a coating using zinc so that it does not get rusted. That is also known as galvanizing. Zinc coating to avoid rusting to iron, usually. That is known as galvanize. But in this context, galvanize means what? It's a verb. Shock or excite someone into taking action. But simply you can remember galvanize means stimulate. The center's move can thus galvanize a subsidiary domestic industry of solar panels. Now, this is all about installing solar panels. These solar panels, what are the sources? One is we can import, the other one we can domestically we can create indigenous industries. This sentence talks about no subsidies if the panels are imported. And because there's no subsidy, people will try to create the products within the country. In that process, what happens? Domestic industry or indigenous companies will come into existence. The sentence talks about that. The center's move can thus galvanize a subsidiary domestic industry of solar panels. Why? The subsidies will not be available for imported panels. Obviously, that results in the something comes into existence. What comes into existence? Domestic industry or indigenous companies, and must be tweaked. The word tweak goes with designers, but here in this context, to change something slightly, especially in order to make it more correct, effective, or suitable. You can also think of the word modify. What is the word you can think of? Modify. Must be tweaked. Answer my question. Is this in active voice or passive voice? Must be tweaked. It is in passive voice. We must tweak something. Something must be tweaked in a way to be more accommodative to states. The main idea is being reiterated. The initiative should be accommodative to states. It starts with that idea. Otherwise, what happens else? There is a real risk that much of the challenges that have impeded previous initiatives will resurface. Previous initiatives impeded by some factors. An important word, impede. Impede means what? To make it more difficult for something to happen or more difficult for someone to do something. But impediment is a noun form. Impediment. You have to know the word forms, very important. Impede, verb, impediment, noun. What are the other words you can think of? Hindrance, hurdle, impediment, hindrance, hurdle, bottleneck, block, also you can say, obstruct, hurdles, hardships, all these words. But generally, impediments, hindrances, hurdles, bottlenecks. Previous initiatives will resurface. If they don't do something, if they don't include the states, then what happens? The previous challenges, they may resurface and they may block the process. It ends on that note. Now let us go to questions based on, and usually what I observe, students think these sessions, they try to look for vocabulary, obviously very important. But the main objective of this analysis, this session, to improve your reading comprehension skill, along with that vocabulary, and whenever possible to consolidate your grammar knowledge, and obviously develop contextual awareness. These questions are very important to answer. What is the reason? You have listened to me only once, and now you are ready to answer the questions. Listening to someone once and during a live session answering the questions, you got to be on your toes. You have to be alert. And if you get the answers right, it shows that you're a good listener and you're very good at grasping information and you're very good at analyzing and answering the questions. This habit will help in the long run. That is the reason why I insist try to answer these questions. These questions are very useful to improve your reading comprehension skill. During a live session, you do remember what is the main focus of the government's initiative mentioned in the editorial. Is it promoting wind energy? No. Encouraging the use of electric vehicles? No. Supplying power to households through rooftop solar panels? Subsidizing traditional power sources? No. Answer is C. According to the finance minister, how much could households potentially save annually through the rooftop solar panel? As I said, you can expect a few questions based on facts and figures. Now, this is not that difficult. Try to answer immediately. How much can a typical household save potentially? 5,000? No. 10,000? No. The editorial says 15,000. The minister claims 15,000 can be saved. Answer is C. What is the minimum monthly electricity consumption required for households to be eligible? Eligibility criterion for the mid-sized solar system installation with government support. 200 units, 250 units, 300 units, 350 units. Yes, I will be doing Yadav. I will be doing that. Mocks, SSC, mocks, banks. I'll be starting. Matter of 1 or 2 days. It has got delayed because I'm busy with other things. Answer is obviously 300 units. How much of the installation cost is proposed to be subsidized under the new policy according to the editorial? Someone, Nagendama, mentioned that time 40 to 60%. I'm sure another student, Suresh, also. They can answer this immediately because already they have written increased from 40% to 60%. Because let us see how you're going to respond. Some students responded. Now I see some say A, some say D. No. Old scheme 40%, new scheme 60% subsidy. Based on that, what is the answer? C is the answer. Exactly, Nagendrama. You will be able to, you must have answered immediately because already you have written, the information is at your fingertips. Who will be responsible for financing the remaining portion of the installation cost under the proposed policy? Who will be responsible the remaining portion of the installation cost? State governments? No. Consumers? No. Private developers affiliated with public sector enterprises? Non-governmental organizations or NGOs? What is the answer? Private developers affiliated with public sector enterprises. Thanks for being with me till the fag end of the session. I hope you guys have got enriched, but this is not usual style or usual pattern. Usually, I bring more questions, more exercises. Perhaps for 1 or 2 days, I'll be doing that. For the time being, focus on reading comprehension skill and vocabulary. Because there was a gap of almost 10 days, a family emergency I could not take. Tomorrow, I'll bring Consolidation. The last slide is going to be the words you have learned today. Tomorrow you have to recollect and write the part of speech and the meaning. Thank you. Thank you very much. I will get back to you, Ashish Sharma, not on this platform. I will get back to you. Yes, Anil Kumar Yadav, I suppose. How to get more marks? See, very simple. Others, if you have time, you could stay back. I would like to give a few tips. All of you remember when you want to get today, if you take any competitive exam, generally we have the session is not over. I'm going to spend 5 minutes. No, no, Subramaniam KB, please listen to me. Uh, we have quant, we have reasoning, we have English, we have current affairs. In the past, I would tell students to get the job, final selection, you should be good at English. That is a major Achilles heel for many candidates across the country. But now the competition has become severe. In the past, 7 marks, 8 marks, they would get eliminated. But today, 0.25 marks also candidates are not getting the job. Severe competition. Now, based on that, based on acute competition, now I tell students to get the job where you have quant, reasoning, English, current affairs, you got to be good at two things. Many candidates are reasonably, they're good at quant, they're good at reasoning. But many candidates are not good at English, not good at current affairs. If you focus on these two from day one, you will get not one job, two or three jobs. Now comes a question based on Anil Kumar's question. So, how to get more marks in English? First of all, you have to learn grammar. When you learn grammar, you have to learn concepts, you have to learn rules. How many rules? Minimum 200 rules. All the rules should be at your fingertips. Second, you have to improve your vocabulary, word power. Along with vocabulary, you have to be the deciding factor. You should become good at reading comprehension skill. Grammar, to master grammar usually takes 2 months. Maximum 3 months, you can master English grammar. But to become good at reading comprehension skill, along with that vocabulary, you need 9 months to 12 months. Please listen very carefully, all of you, whoever is there. What is the time period? 9 months to 12 months. 9 months to 12 months, you have to learn grammar, one thing, and you have to practice a lot of questions. Along with that, you have to take, once you learn grammar, topic wise, you have to practice all the topics together, you have to practice. Then you have to take mock tests. And before taking the exam, you have to work on previous year's papers. That is all one track. Grammar and topic wise, I'll write here grammar. After that, what? Topic wise questions you have to practice. Then all topics together you have to shuffle, you have to practice hundreds of questions. Then you have to take the mock test. Then you have to work on the previous year's papers. This is one track. Along with this, the most important thing, you have to read the Hindu paper, one headlines and one editorial, only for 60 minutes. But once you attend this session, you don't have to spend 60 minutes because I am providing the words and the meanings. I am explaining the context. I am doing value addition. Perhaps after this session, you have to spend maximum 15 to 30 minutes on the editorial. Then you get a clear picture. Develop contextual awareness. You become good at reading comprehension skill. You consolidate your grammar knowledge, and you can improve your word power. And this you have to do to become good at reading comprehension skill and vocabulary. You need not 3 months or 4 months, 9 months to 12 months. Consistently, you have to work on the Hindu paper. Now, some students ask me, so why should we spend on the Hindu paper? Why should we spend time on the Hindu paper? And there are some candidates, they are getting the jobs without reading the Hindu paper. That's a valid question. Again, listen very carefully. Usually, what happens if you take, I'll go back. If you take the candidates, we have two categories 90%, 10%. Usually, the 10%, they get the jobs. And what is the difference between the two groups? 90% the candidates, they take grammar approach, and 10% take my approach, whatever I say. What is this approach? Reading comprehension skill, vocabulary, and contextual awareness. How do you get all the three? By reading the Hindu paper regularly for 9 months to 1 month, 9 months to 12 months. And these candidates also get the job, but usually they take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But those who take my approach, whatever I have just said, 1 year they get not one job, they'll get three, four jobs. How many jobs? I'm so confident about this approach, I can give in writing. This is what I have been telling since 2017, because 2017 SBI changed the pattern. Before 2017, not required to read the Hindu paper because the questions very short sentences, simple, based on rules. But today, many questions are based on contextual awareness, contextual awareness, and also lengthy sentences. If you're not good at contextual awareness, though you know the rule, you cannot answer the question. You cannot answer many exam topics if you're not good at contextual awareness. And now you have to decide, shall I wait for 4 years? And you may or may not, that's a different question. Some people get, they do get. But shall I take this approach, which is not easy, which is not interesting, initially very difficult to deal with, because reading the Hindu paper is not something quite interesting. You may get irritated, bored initially. But once you get used to it, you get addicted to that. And obviously, you will be able to improve. You feel like reading every day. Then what happens? You will get within one year maximum, you will get three, four jobs. Yes. Yes, how to remember? That is again a good question. What time is it? If you guys are willing to listen, I'll spend some time on that also. Any competitive exam, if you're preparing for a competitive exam, information. Every day you are bombarded with a lot of information, different subjects, each subject like an ocean, quant, reasoning, English, current affairs. Day in and day out, you're bombarded with information and not easy to remember. Now, someone wants to know how to retain, how to remember. There are some techniques. First, you should know what happens. Memory, when it comes to memory, we have two types. One is a short term memory, the other one is long term memory. Whatever you have learned today, it has entered short term memory, and you have to do certain things to send it to long term memory. And what are those things you have to do to send something from the short term memory to long term memory? First, you have to listen to someone and learn. In that process, if you don't understand, you have a few doubts, you have to get the doubts cleared. And this is the first step. Usually, students they attend some lecture, they go to the institute, they listen, they learn. Not a big deal, it goes very smoothly. The first step. The second one, you have to read your notes every day. Today, you have learned something about nouns. Read at before you go to bed, you have to read whatever you have written in the notebook, whatever the master has taught, you have to read. When I say read, what I mean, when you read, spend some time. If you close a notebook, whatever is in the notebook has to be here. Need not be in the same word. If you take the words, whatever you have written, need not be that way, but the gist of it. Let's say you have learned about nouns. Definition, the master may give elaborate definition. But when you look at, when you read your notes, you ask yourself, what is a noun? Naming word, keyword should be, you should be able to tell. Like that, every aspect. And you have to ask yourself, I have learned all about nouns. How many rules have I learned? 10, 15, 17, 20. Do I remember all the 17 rules? You have to cross check. You have to ask yourself. Third step, the most important, you have to revise once a week. This is these two steps are deciding factors when it comes to retaining information. Now you may say, sir, these look very simple. What is the big deal? They are not simple. What is the reason? You learn, you listen, you learn. Not a big deal. You have to go to the institute. But end of the day, you're tired, you're exhausted. You attend the sessions morning to evening. Then you don't feel like reading. You don't read. And every day, so much information, 1 week, imagine different subjects, so much information to revise. And if you don't read every day, question of revision does not come into picture. And this is like both are related, depend on each other. Read every day, you feel like revising. You don't read, then revision does not come into picture. And after that, you have to practice. I will use a verb form. Practice what? Every day. TICE is a noun form, TISE is a verb form. You have to practice initially topic wise questions, then all topics together. Then you have to practice, take mock tests, then previous year's papers. When you do all these things, obviously nothing can stop you, no one can stop you. And all the information you will be able to retain, and you will be able to. And I give some more tips. Revision. Then you have to discuss. You all come under adult learners. Same topic. Imagine today you have learned nouns. Evening, morning, you got information about nouns. After the session, you go for tea with your friends. Ask each other, one another. So, what have you learned today? What have you learned today? Discuss the topic. And you may understand something, may not understand something. Take the help of your friends and make sure you discuss all the dimensions. That is the best way to remember. Everyday discussion with your friends, topic wise, helps in the long run. You will be able to retain the information. The last one is not practically possible, but still, if you do, that is going to help. Write without seeing. You have learned all about nouns. End of the day, you write, read, and after 2 or 3 days, try to scribble. You don't have to write in detail. Write all about noun. What is the definition, types of nouns, and the rules. Write the keywords. When you write, you will be able to remember. These are the things you have to keep in mind while preparing for competitive exams. Then you will be able to remember. Whatever you learn will be at your fingertips. But you neglect all these things. Again, after 3 months or 4 months, you read all these. A bit difficult. You have to struggle. I will answer that question tomorrow, Pandu. Tomorrow also, I will spend last fag end of the session. Do remember your question. I will answer that question tomorrow. How to analyze the score, the result of mocks, how to improve. That's a very good question, but not today. Tomorrow, I will do it tomorrow. A valid question, an important question. That's all for today. Thanks for being with me. And I hope the tips have been useful. Good night to all of you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you very much.